Over the last week or so, there have been a series of unexplained explosions in Transnistria, a breakaway region in eastern Moldova run by Russian-backed separatists that borders western Ukraine. Russian politicians have subsequently blamed Ukraine for the violence, and Russian state media has already called for Russian intervention in Transnistria to try and protect its ethnic Russian population. So in this video, we're going to take a look at whether Russia actually will claim Transnistria, and if it does, what might happen next. We actually first discussed this story in Tuesday's Daily Briefing. That's the show where we go through the 5 most important news stories each day, giving you a rundown of everything you need to know around the world in a matter of minutes. Watch on the separate TLDR Daily YouTube channel or listen by searching in your favourite podcast app. So before we get into the recent developments, a quick bit of context. We actually did a full video on Transnistria a while ago, exclusively on Nebula. But for those of you who don't know, Transnistria is a region in the east of Moldova that's been de facto independent from Moldova proper since the collapse of the Soviet Union. In late 1989, after the Moldovan SSR declared the official language to be Moldovan, ethnic Russians in Moldova massed in Transnistria, and a year later declared themselves a separate Soviet republic, called the Pridnestrovian Moldovan Soviet Socialist Republic. Gorbachev, however, annulled the declaration. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, Moldova claimed Transnistria as part of Moldova, but the Transnistrians, unsurprisingly, didn't agree, and a war broke out. Since then, little progress has been made. Moldova still claims Transnistria as its own, but Transnistria essentially acts as an independent separate state, with its own currency, passport, and parliament. While Russia, like most of the international community, doesn't formally recognize Transnistria's independence, it does maintain special relations with the region. Russia is Transnistria's biggest export market, and since 2005, Russia has provided free gas to the region, while also providing pensions to about 150,000 Transnistrians. Russia also maintains a permanent military presence in the region of about 1,500 peacekeepers, and performs regular military exercises, which Russia claims are about maintaining stability in the region. Russia even opened a consulate there in 2012, despite the complaints of the Moldovan government. Not that the local people likely care, because a massive majority of Transnistrians reject Moldova and favour accession into Russia proper. In fact, a 2006 referendum found that 98% of Transnistrians were in favour of potential future accession into Russia, and every Transnistrian leader since the Soviet Union has expressed support for eventual Russian accession. So you get the idea. Transnistria is a pro-Russian separatist state with special economic, military, and political relations with Russia. So perhaps it's unsurprising that since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, many analysts have expressed concerns that Transnistria could be Putin's next target. And while things have definitely escalated recently, a Russian invasion of Moldova was always on the card. After all, Transnistria is like Donbass in many respects. It's a pro-Russian separatist state with a permanent Russian military presence, about which Russia has expressed concerns about the cultural oppression of ethnic Russians. So it certainly looks pretty similar. And only last year, the Moldovan Supreme Court struck down a language law passed by pro-Russian Moldovan MPs, giving the Russian language special status. And last week, the Moldovan Parliament passed a law banning the orange and black striped ribbons of St. George, often used by Russia as a way to show public support for the government and the military, as well as the pro-war Z symbol. It's not just this though. Annexation of Transnistria would be consistent with Putin's new Russia policy, a historical region that apparently informs Putin's imperial ambitions. And in fact, you might even remember that in early March, Belarusian President Lukashenko presented a map indicating that Russia would be launching an offensive against Ukraine from Transnistria, suggesting that Transnistria was always meant to play a role in this war. At the time, Belarusian officials claimed this was just a mistake, and no offensive has been staged from Transnistria just yet. but things certainly have heated up in the last few days. That's because in mid-April, after Lavrov announced that Russia had begun, quote, phase 2 of the special military operation, a senior Russian commander said that the goal of Russia's new offensive was to seize control of southern Ukraine and gain access to Transnistria. And another military official raised the issue of oppression of Russian speakers in Transnistria, in the context of Russia's military campaign in Ukraine. Then, on Monday, talk turned to action, with Transnistria's state security ministry in Tiraspol being shelled by a grenade launcher. Then, a day later, on Tuesday, there are explosions at 2 radio towers broadcasting Russian state media. The same day, Russia launched a missile strike against a bridge connecting Odessa and neighbouring Romania, presumably in order to limit Ukraine's ability to defend against an attack launched from Transnistria. And there are even reports that Transnistrians have received texts claiming that Russia was invading Transnistria, which was strenuously denied by Ukraine. Anyway, both Transnistria and Russia have blamed Ukraine for the violence, and on Wednesday, Transnistria accused Russian security forces of drone attacks against the country. In reaction, Transnistria declared a red level of terror threat for 15 days, as well as stepping up security checks on roads and on its frontier with Moldova, and cancelling a parade which was set to commemorate their World War II victory on May 9th. A Russian state media outlet subsequently published an article claiming that the West was trying to destroy Moldova, and a Russian tabloid claimed that the US was trying to open a second front in Transnistria to help Ukraine. Unsurprisingly, Ukraine denied responsibility for the attacks, and Moldova blamed it on internal factions within Transnistria, who disagree over the war with Ukraine. In reaction to all of this, though, Moldova held its own Security Council meeting on Tuesday, where they agreed to step up patrols and vehicle checks near the buffer zone with Transnistria, as well as imposing regular security checks on critical infrastructure. You get the idea then. There's been a notable uptick in violence in Transnistria just a few days after Russian military officials started talking about the oppression of its local Russian population and the possibility of a land bridge into the region. Which is why many analysts have started warning about the possibility of either Russian forces using Transnistria to attack Odessa from the west, or even claiming Transnistria as part of the Russian Federation. If either of these things happened, it would almost certainly provoke a reaction from Moldova. And this is particularly worrying because, well, this could in turn require a reaction from Romania, a NATO member. Romania and Moldova have an exceptionally close relationship, considering that they've been in an on and off political union since the 19th century. Many Moldovans even hold dual citizenship, and Romanians and Moldovans share common traditions, cultures, and even often languages. Now, we should say at this point that we think that a Russian intervention in Transnistria is unlikely. Russia's deputy foreign minister said on Tuesday that Russia would like to avoid a scenario in which Transnistria is dragged into the war, and the Russian army would probably struggle to do it even if they wanted to, given the number of Ukrainian forces in the east and Moldovan forces in the north. The Russian army has also faced myriad logistical issues throughout the war, and it's hard to see how they'd supply a force in Transnistria with no direct land bridge from Russia. Nonetheless, similar reasoning also applied to Ukraine, and Russia still ended up invading. And it's possible that Putin will set his sights on a weaker opposition, like Moldova or Transnistria, if he can't win in Ukraine, but still needs to claim some sort of military victory. All in all, Russian intervention in Transnistria has a non-zero probability, and this should probably worry, well, everyone, because it could end up involving a NATO member state. Anyway, if you want to be updated on this story as it plays out, and the war as a whole, as well as what we can expect from Russia next, then you'll want to subscribe to the Daily Briefing. That's our new daily show, where we explain 5 news stories every single day. We pick out the big stories, the ones you ought to know about, but we also choose some smaller ones that you might otherwise miss. So if you want to be better informed about the world around you and news from all over the globe, then you really ought to subscribe. And it's only a few minutes each day, so what do you have to lose? We post a video version every weekday over on the TLDR Daily channel, so you can subscribe over there. or you can listen along to the podcast by searching for the TLDR Daily Briefing in your favourite podcast app. Thanks for your support, and I hope you enjoy the new show.